Yeah, so I'll just quickly introduce myself and then I'll go through interpretation instructions and then we'll do a round of introductions. So hi, good afternoon. My name is Jem Marasigan. I'm one of the facilitators here for the Fresno Community Steering Committee meetings. I'm joined here by my colleagues, Dr. Amy Ramos, Dr. Gema Cardona, and Liz Lev. They'll introduce themselves shortly. But before we get started, as Steph mentioned, I'll go through some really quick Zoom instructions for interpretation because we are doing simultaneous interpretation for today's call. And then we'll do a quick round of introductions because I think this is a lot of new faces for each other. So bear with me as I switched to a new monitor, so now I have to figure out how to share this properly. 1 second. All right. Okay. Okay, can y'all see my screen? Okay. So for folks who are joining in on through their computer, here are the instructions to access simultaneous interpretation. So in your Zoom controls at the bottom, there's an icon that looks like a globe. It says interpretation. You'll want to click that and then choose a language you'd like to hear the meeting in. So for today, it's either Spanish or English. Please ensure that bottom of the dropdown where it says mute original audio, make sure that is not selected so you can hear folks who are calling in through their phones. Everyone must be in a channel, whether it's English or Spanish, so that you can hear the meeting. So I'm going to pause really quick and let our interpreters provide the instructions in Spanish.
Muy buenas tardes y bienvenidos a la reunión. A través de esta reunión vamos a tener interpretación simultánea disponible. Para accesar la interpretación simultánea, si usted está usando una computadora, favor de seleccionar el icono que parece un mundo abajo de su pantalla. Después de seleccionar el icono que parece un mundo, va a seleccionar su lenguaje de preferencia, en este caso va a ser español. Después le invito a poner el audio original en silencio y de esta manera va a poder participar completamente y escuchar en su lenguaje de preferencia. Si está usando otro tipo de diapositiva como un celular, una tableta, sus opciones son diferentes. Usted va a seleccionar los 3 puntitos que están en la parte inferior de su pantalla, indicando more o más opciones. Después de seleccionar los 3 puntitos, usted va a deslizar un poquito hacia arriba y va a mirar interpretación de lenguajes o language interpretation. Va a seleccionar español y va a poner el audio original en silencio y por último va a oprimir listo para que de esta manera la función quede lista. If you are a monolingual English-only speaker, you are also invited to select interpretation. This will be important so that if we do have any Spanish questions or comments, you will be able to hear them in real time. So if you are a monolingual English-only speaker, if you're on a computer, you will select an icon that looks like a world at the bottom of the screen. If you're on a cell phone, you will actually select the 3 little dots that indicate more options. And after that, you're going to go to language interpretation. You will select English and everything will be business as usual, but you will be able to hear our Spanish participants in real time. With that, that would be the instructions. Y si usted habla español, le invitamos a someter sus preguntas o comentarios en su lenguaje de preferencia. Gracias.
Thank you so much, Reina. Yes, and those are also the instructions in English, so perfect. Please let us know if you're having trouble accessing that through the chat or just unmuting yourself. We can troubleshoot as needed. And then lastly, just really quick, some virtual meeting etiquette. So please, since we are a large group, we ask that you stay on mute unless you're speaking or planning to speak. If you're calling in by phone, you'll press *6 to unmute yourself. And then please raise your hand to ask a question during the conversation. Again, if you're calling by phone, you'll use *9. All right, got the logistics out the way. So I think with that, we can start with a round of introductions. Jess, you're right next to me, so I'm gonna pass it to you and then maybe we can do, I can call out each one, I guess, to make sure everyone gets covered. Is that good?
Yeah, that sounds great, Jem. Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you all so much for being here. My name is Jessica Olson. I'm the Director of Community Strategies at the Valley Air District, and you'll hear a little bit more about what my team covers during the presentation. So thank you.
Thanks, Jess. Stephanie, you're next.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Stephanie Ng, and I work for Jess in the Department of Community Strategies and Resources.
Thanks, Steph. Colette?
My name is Colette Kincaid. I'm a senior air quality specialist at the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District, and I currently am one of the seniors over the school bus programs.
Thank you. Eric?
Hello, everyone. My name is Eric Salas. I am also with Stephanie Ng and Jessica Olson in the Community Strategies and Resources Board. I'm a new addition to the team, so pleasure to meet you all.
Thank you, Eric. Heather?
Hello, everyone. Heather Hines, Program Manager in the Outreach and Communications Department with the Valley Air District. A pleasure to see all of you.
Thank you. Janine?
Hi, Janine Tackett. I'm a supervisor in the grants department, and I oversee our air filtration programs as well as our heavy duty on-road programs.
Thank you. Ryan?
Good afternoon, everyone. Ryan Hayashi. I'm one of the deputy air pollution control officers with the district, and one of my roles and responsibilities is working with Jess and her team on our community work. Thanks.
Thanks, Ryan. Marisela?
Estoy en el canal de español, pero soy Marisela Velázquez, trabajo con el Distrito del Aire y estoy trabajando en los programas de AB 617.
Thank you. Amy, Dr. Amy Ramos?
Good afternoon, everyone. Dr. Amy Ramos. I work at Harder & Company Community Research. I am part of the facilitation team. Happy to be here today.
Thank you. Nazreen?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nasreen Johnson. I'm the Director of Community Relations and External Affairs for one of the companies within the group called Caglia Environmental. And in another hat that I wear that might be relevant to this conversation is I'm on the board of State Center Community College District, one of our college district schools in the region.
Thank you. Alex?
Yes, Alex Bellinger, Chief Executive Operational Services for the Unified School District. Looking forward to enjoying a great meeting.
Thank you. Dr. Gemma Cardona?
Hi, yes, I'm Dr. Cardona. I am also part of Harder & Company, one of the research associates, and supporting the facilitators in AB 617. Thank you for having me here today.
Thank you. And Ralph?
Ralph Meza, Director of Transportation for Fresno Unified School District.
Thank you. Liz?
Hello.
I'm sorry.
Two Liz's. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Liz Lev.
Hi, I'm Liz Lev. I am here as part of the facilitation team. I'm a research analyst at Harder & Company. It's nice to meet you all.
Thank you. Jasmine Buenrostro?
Hi, my name is Jasmine Buenrostro. I am with Central California Environmental Justice Network, and right now I'm just subbing for Nayamin because she'll be hopping on later.
I am here.
Oh, Nayamin,
there she is.
Nice to have you.
Since a good connection, Nayamin Martinez, I am a member of the Fresno Steering Committee for AB 617 and also working with the Central California Environmental Justice Network.
Thank you. And Elizabeth Rosas?
Hi, Elizabeth Jonathan Rosas, school board member for Fresno Unified, school president this year. I also work for Westlands Water District.
Thank you. Lisa Flores.
Hi, I'm Lisa Flores. I belong to AB 617. I'm a community member and probably a thorn in everybody's side, but let's get some money to the schools.
Thank you, Lisa, and I doubt that. Mary, I think she's on the, there she can hop on. Hi, Mary Gonzalez. Would you like to introduce yourself really quick?
Yes, thank you. Hi, Mary Gonzalez. I'm with Facilities Management Planning at Fresno Unified School District.
Thank you. And we have Lupe Perez.
Good afternoon, Lupe Perez, City of Fresno, focusing on downtown development, and happy to see everybody. It's been a little bit.
Thank you. Brandolyn Hastings.
Hi, everyone. My name is Brandolyn Hastings. I'm Board President Jonathan Rosas Liaison, so I'm here as point of contact and follow through for everybody.
Thank you. It's a bit hard to hear you. If there's any way you can turn up your mic volume.
I will try to figure that out. Thank you so much.
Awesome, thank you. And then Jennifer Magana.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jennifer Magana. I'm with the Air Resources Board, Office of Community Air Protection, and I'm the liaison, the AB 617 liaison for South Central Fresno. So any support from CARB, I'm here to give it.
Awesome, thank you. And Kim McCoy.
Good afternoon, everyone. Kimberly McCoy, Policy Advocate from Central California Asthma Collaborative and also a CSC AB 617 member here in Fresno.
Thank you. Did I miss anyone? I lots of screens on here and I'm sorry if I did. Okay, I don't think so. Awesome, well, welcome everyone. We have a full room and I think we have a really exciting conversation ahead of us. I'll pass it, I guess, to Ryan to frame the conversation and then we'll tee it off with a presentation.
Yeah, I'll keep it really short, Jim. Thanks. Just really happy to have everybody here today and continue this conversation. Really appreciative of all the time and the effort that the Fresno Community Steering Committee has put into, developing the measures to improve the air quality and quality of life for the residents of the community, which included measures for school districts. And we've over the last several years had a lot of conversation, and we're getting to the point where we need to move some of these forward. And we've heard the desire of the steering committee members to look to do that work with Fresno Unified, and hoping that this conversation can be another stepping stone towards that. And Jess and the team have put together a lot of background information for everybody here today, and to help with that discussion. So just want to thank all of you for taking the time to be here today to talk about this important subject.
Thank you, Ryan. And yes, as he pointed, we're going to start off with just a brief overview of AB 617. I'm sure most, if not all of us, are familiar with that process, but it's always good to have a refresher and have it top of mind to really launch the conversation with. So with that, I will pass it off to Jess from the Air District. And take it away, Jess.
Awesome, sounds great. Just so you all know, I will be sharing my screen. So if any questions arise, Jem will help me sort of field them, but feel free to throw things in the chat too. You can see we have a robust set of skills from the district here today to answer all questions, but I'm gonna share my screen and get started. This is in English and Spanish, so if we do have folks that join us that prefer or need the Spanish interpretation, we have that available in all of the slides, and the agenda that has been dropped in the chat is available in Spanish as well. So really today, just a high level overview of what the AB 617 process is. As we dive into the funding that's available, it really stems from this statewide effort. It's called AB 617 because that's the name of the assembly bill, but really it's known as the Community Air Protection Program. And year by year, the California Air Resources Board goes through a process to select communities throughout the state to receive focused efforts, really for both emissions reductions and community air monitoring. Today, we're going to focus certainly on the funding that's available for emissions reductions or exposure reductions for communities. So we've actually had 4 communities selected. They're all represented here on this map. And of course, today we're talking about one of our first communities that was selected and one of the first communities that was selected statewide, and that's the South Central Fresno area. I'm going to share a slide in a second here that just outlines the boundary, and I'll also drop a link in the chat that has that boundary as well as schools located within that boundary. So it's really relevant to our conversation today. So each steering committee, or sorry, each community has a community steering committee. So you'll hear us say CSC, or you'll see all of the CSCs before a lot of the names here today. That stands for Community Steering Committee and represents those members. Those can be community residents that live within the boundary, local business representatives, advocates, schools, government agencies. A lot of folks come to these monthly meetings, and sometimes more frequently, like a meeting like today, to help drive how we implement the community emissions reduction program. So today's goal is really to reconnect, as Ryan mentioned earlier. This is not, of course, our first conversation. I know several of you on the staff side have met with several of our staff many, many times over the past few years, and certainly well before 617 was established. And we did have some conversations, I know, with some other parts of leadership a couple years ago about these funding opportunities. And so today really is focusing on two sets of measures. One is the school air filtration upgrade, which is what we'll have our first conversation about, and then we'll transition to the school bus replacement. I have in here, and you can see in the links in the chat that are available to you, you can go and click on these links, which will bring you to a much more detailed version or description of each of these measures, but we'll also go through them in the presentation here. Just a note about sort of what led to this meeting. And just sort of a high level status of where we're at with 617 in Fresno. We have the funding from CARB, and those carry statutory deadlines, and really the CERT itself is a finite set of years. And so we've been working really closely with community members to understand how to shift funding if needed to make sure we spend the funding that's allocated to this community on time. And so with that, it's sort of become this critical time for us to check in with partners and understand their and assess their need and interest in continuing to use this funding. The community has been making a lot of tough decisions about moving funding around, and so getting feedback from partners like you will help get community members available to make those decisions. And so I just wanted to let you know that it was really a community focused and community request that we have kind of this global meeting with all CSC members and Fresno Unified leadership. So I want to thank them for that push. And then finally, this is what I mentioned earlier. I'm actually going to drop, I don't know, oops, go back. I will grab this link and drop it in the chat for you all. But this is a map, and I will go back to the slide in a second, that also has the list of Fresno area schools. And I will drop this link in the chat, which shares with you all of the you can click and it's interactive, and you can zoom in and zoom out. It shares not only the schools in the boundary that you can click on and see which school it is, although I'm sure you're super familiar, but also shows you where our different monitors are, and kind of puts a little bit more of a picture together of all of the different things that are happening within the community boundary. And so with that, I'm going to pop back over just to share. This also has a list of all, these are, obviously there's more than just Fresno Unified here, but it is the primary district for the schools in the boundary. All of the ones in bold here are actually schools that we have air monitoring already hosted at. So we're already partnering with you all, and we definitely thank you for that partnership. It was really a community driven process to make sure we had air monitoring located where sensitive receptors like children are. So definitely building upon that and hoping to build upon that today and getting some of this funding that's available out to you all. So I'm going to stop sharing before we get into the two specific measures and see if there's just an overall process question before we dive in, or we can certainly just dive right in. And while I'm doing that, I've dropped the link. This link I just dropped in the chat is that interactive map I just shared. All right, I'm definitely happy to dive in. I think it's why we're all here. So I'm going to go to the next slide and share my screen. And with that, I'm going to actually pass it over to Janine Tackett to just really briefly explain the school air filtration program.
All right, thank you, Jessica. So the school air filtration program is basically designed to provide funding to schools to improve their air filtration system, so their HVAC system, or to add secondary units into the classrooms to enhance the air filtration in the classrooms. So it does cover a variety of different activities, either portables, retrofits, HVAC upgrades. The community has an allocated 1.5 million for this program. And there are some restrictions. We do need to ensure that what we're upgrading to is better than what is already being utilized at the school. So preferably we'd like to see a MERV 14 or better, but we understand some systems, older systems especially, may not be able to handle that. So if you're, for example, running currently a MERV 8 and your system can handle a 10, we would be able to provide funding to purchase filter panels at that MERV 10 rating for the school for a period of time, 5-year period. Likewise, we can also provide funding for standalone or portable devices in the classrooms themselves. And again, those would need to be a MERV 14 or better. The program is open. We do have applications available and can definitely provide funding fairly quickly for that. Installation costs are also covered under this program. So if you were doing an HVAC retrofit of some type that will enhance the filtration capabilities, the cost associated to installing that equipment could also be included in the funding.
Thank you, Janine. And so before I field maybe any specific questions to Janine, I did want to give everyone sort of a touch base for, I know a lot of some of the staff from Fresno Unified know this, but just to kind of bring everyone to up to speed on where we've been with interacting and kind of the next steps that we as a district understand, so we can all kind of go from there and host this discussion. So this is also in the agenda, and same thing with the school buses if you want to read ahead and see kind of what the discussion will be. But basically where we're at is we've had lots of discussions interacting with not only Fresno Unified, but a variety of schools up and down the valley, and certainly with AB 617. And there were a lot of schools had already received funding for upgrades, whether it was state funding or federal funding as a part of maybe the CARES Act or something related to COVID. And so that was all sort of happening at the same time that we launched this program. So what we had been working with the community on, and something that we promised the community, is that we would want to get an understanding of where the schools were with those upgrades to see if there was even any longer a need for the funding from the Valley Air District. And so at the time we met with some staff, some of them that are on the call today. I know at the time maybe there was still a process of evaluating schools, and we did provide a list of schools to see if the district could maybe fill out and help us understand the status and sort of whether or not essentially there was any need for us to continue, and allow us as an air district the ability to communicate back to the community what Fresno Unified did, so that they can make that determination on their own as a CSC that the funding was no longer needed. And so with that, we just kind of had a couple of guiding questions here, and then I'll pass it to Jem to sort of facilitate a discussion. I'm happy to drop these questions in the chat so we can kind of see faces better. But really, one is there sort of, whether it's general and global to the district or maybe site by site, an understanding of what filtration or HVAC upgrades have been made, especially with, again, some of the funding that's already been received. And then given the goal that Janine just described of the actual filtration program that we have, is there still a need for the school district to participate in this measure, or can we communicate back to the community that we can use this funding for maybe something else? So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, but I will drop these questions in the chat.
Thank you, Jess. So, and as she posts the questions on there, I think that's really the goal for today's conversation, to really answer those two overarching questions. However, I do welcome any questions, follow-up questions from what was shared, and folks from the CSC, especially if you have any follow-up questions as well.
Well, I just have follow-up questions for the school district. You know, when we initiated these conversations, the question was like, well, we don't know, some our classrooms are older and what have you. And then we kind of like a steering committee, like just back up and hope that, you know, both the Fresno Unified School District staff and the Air District staff continue the conversation. And frankly, I was like, you know, blown away when I read the article in the newspaper that no upgrades have been done, not with the other, you know, COVID money that was available or with the funds that are available. So frankly, as a steering committee, that we have to decide where the money goes. We really want to help improve our quality for Fresno Unified School District students. So we were here to see how we can do that. not only for the filtration, but also for the school buses, and hopefully we'll be able to talk about trees and all that. So, we're just happy to move on to the next conversation, because unfortunately, as it was mentioned before, this money has very limited, a bit window of time of when we can use it. So we don't want to return any money, and I'm sure you are with me on that. So just happy to see how we can partner and send you the money.
Hi, it's Lisa. I just want to piggyback on Naomi. I'm into let's use this money and let's everybody hustle to get this money going and out. But I also would like to see what are the actual needs of the school districts and how would you use this money? Because if there's something new and innovative, if filters are great, but you tell us, what do you need? Because you have your boots on the ground. What do you need? Thank you.
Thank you for your questions, Naimeen and Lisa. So I'm gonna turn it to welcome anyone from the school district to address those questions, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. That's a great questions, and we appreciate the opportunity to look into them. We are currently doing a deep dive evaluation. We are working, whether or not you read it in the newspaper or not, things are happening. There's a tremendous amount of work that's happened over this last this has been improving our indoor air has been a plan of the district for quite a while. So we're currently going through all that. In addition to that, looking at ESSER funds, and also be looking at the San Joaquin area and what those opportunities are with these grants as well. We are working with our team. I am new to my role, but not new to the district. So I do know on the capital side that we've made improvements, and also on the maintenance side we've made improvements. I think probably the best thing is to get back together with our subcommittee, sounds like existed, and walk through what's been done, and then walk through next steps, and then come back and inform the bigger group. I think that would probably be the best, so that we're working with real information.
And just so I can ask Alex, when you say the sub, you mean like get back with some of the our air district folks that have kind of the background on the air filtration needs? Is that kind of what you mean?
I think I'd definitely like to spend some more time with you and walk through all the what's been done, what you've assessed, and what I don't want to do is discount previous conversations. And I want to capture it all together, and then be able to come and also be able to give the opportunity to share with you, and then meet with our staff and share with the what's been done, the successes that we have, and where it's been implemented.
And then Janine, can you remind me, so far we have not done any school air filtration because this is the case kind of in a lot of districts that so far no one's taking advantage. Is that correct, Janine?
Correct.
Okay.
In most cases across all of our communities that have this measure, the funding that school districts received from these other sources through COVID relief packages and various other assistance over that COVID time period had a very fast turnaround time to get the money spent, and was relatively large amounts. And it was communicated that they didn't have a need for additional money, as they were still trying to figure out how to spend everything that they had received to date. So.
Okay. I think it'd be healthy for us to get back together and walk through that, and what those opportunities are, and make sure, and just to take a very simple approach to what we're talking about and doing. Also get together with you, we're going to spend more time walking through your program, what's available. Mary's on the call. She's exceptional at helping us maximize opportunities and look at the best way we can serve our community. So I think that would be my desire and approach. There's lots of funds, you're right, from everywhere. The other challenge is being able to obtain materials and vendors to do it. But I think there's some low-hanging fruit that we want to take advantage of.
And just knowing that I know that school district, it sounds like you guys are operating on the administration level year round. So timing wise, the community I think is really eager, and you heard it I think from a few folks here. and the district, we're super available. So if we can, maybe to your point, we're happy to set something up in the next week or two to have that conversation so we can communicate it back to our community members at their next meeting.
That'd be great. That'd be great. Yep.
Hi, it's Lisa. Actually, I would like a date from both sides, the Air District and the schools, to what date are you guys actually going to have this meeting? I would like it by Friday because it's not that hard to look at a calendar, guys. Because you guys don't know how much I want the schools to get this money. I am like so pro school, so come on.
Us too. Yeah, I agree, Lisa. Harder and Company is taking actions for us. And so Harder, hopefully by the end of the day today, we can even work back and forth with Alex and his team to set up a meeting.
Yeah, and if you could send me that date, I would greatly appreciate it. Because, you know, I really want, you don't even know how much I want to see this money go to schools. I don't want to see us forced to divert it because people sit on things. I really want to see, you know, it go to the schools. So know you have a lot of commitment from a lot of people sitting on the committee from the community. And we really want to say yes, 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 and oh, hell yes. So let's move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Yes, definitely stressing the sense of urgency here. And we are tracking these action items. So at the end of today's call, we'll confirm that with a group, ensure that there's transparency and accountability with everyone.
And also too, one other thing, that if we do grant this money, does CARB give us the commitment, since this is a grant program, that they can work with possibly extending the expenditure part of this grant for Fresno Unified because of the nature of getting resources because of, you know, the supply chain and stuff?
Yeah, good question, Lisa. Jennifer, would you be able to address that?
I believe the deadlines for these funds are set by the Ledge's office, but I can go ahead and double check with my incentives team and then I'll follow up with Jess on that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
No
you.
problem.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions or comments regarding school air filtration? So what we're hearing is there will be a follow-up meeting in the next 2 weeks to talk more details about how that commitment can be followed through. Hopefully identifying what the school district needs to make that happen, what kind of support they need from the air district. Any other comments or questions for the school air filtration? Okay.
Yeah, it's Lisa again. A real quick question. Do we know the name of the grant writer?
The grant?
Well, the writer who writes the application and stuff, because I know in a lot of past meetings, we were having problems with getting information from the school district of who is who. And do we have those names of the players? And do we have their phone numbers? And do we have their emails?
You're asking who at the Fresno Unified level are we communicating with?
Yeah.
So right now for this, and maybe Mary, there we go. Mary unmuted. Go ahead, Mary.
Yes, thank you. I recently moved into facilities management and planning, so I would be taking that on with great pleasure and supporting whoever I can. I think the key is for us to assess the schools located within the geographic area. And once we assess that, then we can know what we can do going forward. So I think Alex had made the exact same point of what our next steps are. And
Okay.
I think we're very good at moving forward with that.
All right, that's fabulous to hear, Mary. Thank you. I'm glad to know you're the point person. A face with a name. Thank you.
Thank you for the questions, Lisa. Anyone else? Any questions or comments around school air filtration? Okay, Jess, am I passing it back to you with the next part of the presentation?
Absolutely. And thank you all. I super appreciate this engagement. I'm going to go on to the next item, which is school buses, which I know is definitely a change, but at the same time, we have, it sounds like a lot of representatives from Fresno Unified in the transportation sector. So I'm really eager and excited for Fresno Unified. And I'm sure they'll share this with you all as well. This is not a new type of program. They've, worked with us. The school air filtration is a new concept. School bus replacement isn't new. So here I'm sharing, and I don't know if Colette, can you just walk through on this slide? Colette is with, as she introduced herself earlier, is with that program here at the district, and just high level describe what the school bus replacement program is and kind of how it works.
So it's very similar to other school bus programs that we've run and that's been run across the state. It's a replacement program. So it replaces a diesel bus with an all-electric bus. There is $6.4 million was allocated in the SERP, and all of that money is still available. It is a one-to-one replacement. So there are, for this SERP, I believe it was a 100% a 100% cost of the replacement. So whatever that may be up to the total amount was a 6.4 million. It does have some cost effectiveness thresholds that are in place, but the other funding caps that you may have seen with other programs wouldn't apply to this one. So there's no $400,000 cap. It's up to 100% replacement cost, but there is that cost effectiveness cap. So it's just, it replaces an old bus that needs to be completely crushed with a new all electric bus. It can be pretty much any bus. There's no procurement process that we are requiring to have in place. So we try to reduce any paperwork that would be required. So it's a pretty standard, fairly easy program for them to take advantage of on this one. And again, all the funding is still available.
Thank you for that. Oh no, that's perfect. So again, I'm going to introduce kind of where we're at with the school bus program. It's a little more straightforward. And then if there's questions about the program and how it works, Colette is still here. But basically, from our understanding, we've had conversations, and as Colette just mentioned, we work with a lot of districts up and down the valley. From our understanding, I think the school district maybe is interested, but you guys can let us know today. But it hasn't been clear to us. We haven't received applications, I should say, in actually identifying whether or not buses are, you're interested in receiving funding for replacing buses. And so we definitely wanted to identify whether that interest still existed and if there's any barriers that we could help address, that the district or even the CSC can help address. And then we can just also share with you some contacts there have been several schools in the Valley even recently that have replaced really kind of large groups of buses with electric. And so if there's more like logistics questions that even the district might not have as good insight as maybe another school district, we're happy to introduce you all to that. And then I do see Naimeen's hand, who I think can maybe even provide context on the status and interest from the CSC.
Well, definitely the CSC, and I am, sorry that the Spanish-speaking residents who are part of our CSC, Estela Ortega, Lilia Becerril, Isabel Vargas, have been very vocal because they're very active in their children's schools. So all in the area of Bangpao, Roosevelt High School, and other schools. And they were like, wow, why haven't our school district applied for the money? And I remember at the initial conversations, one obstacle or perceived obstacle was that in the initial allocation of money is that there was no consideration for the charging stations. And, we as the steering committee members went back and said, well, it makes no sense that we're funding an electric bus, but if they don't have a charging station, then they're not going to take it. So we, as the steering committee, make the recommendation that we consider that as an allowable expense. And even if that means that we will have to switch money around and maybe give less buses, but that there's, going to be more a bit, feasibility for the school districts to actually take advantage of this funding. So if Jessica or someone in the district can verify if that is the case, so now cost of the charging stations is a possible funding for this strategy.
And I don't know if Colette or Janine know more than me, so please unmute or raise your hand, but we are allowed to spend this type of funding on infrastructure for school buses. Is that correct, Janine? But maybe not the way that it's written right
Well,
now.
you know, I apologize. I don't want to overstep anything because I'm not over this particular program, but we do have a heavy duty electric infrastructure program open, first come, first serve, specifically for school districts, really for electric charging for buses. And money is readily available there. So we do have, not necessarily directly with this project plan, but within the suite of programs that the district has to offer, we do have infrastructure, charging infrastructure money readily available that can be packaged up with the bus replacements.
And to Naimi's point, we can shift to, as we identify, I know we've already identified other programs as a CSC that we might want to shift funding from. And so maybe I'll go to Jem or to maybe facilitate some of these questions.
Yeah, thank you, Jess. Yeah, so the follow-up questions with given what was shared, we'd like to know what is the school district's interest in replacing the existing school bus with electric buses, with the use of electric buses, knowing what provisions are available. Also, what are barriers, if any, to the school district participating? So you can tell there's a lot of excitement and eagerness to help schools really improve the air quality there. Ralph, go ahead.
Yeah, just I wanted to share a little information and background with regards to some of the other districts that we reached out to, because we, you know, here at Fresno Unified, we believe in doing our due diligence with regard to research.
Ralph, sorry, it's a bit hard to hear you. Could you get closer to the mic?
Right, I'm so sorry. I apologize. Is that better? Is that better?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so here at Fresno Unified, we believe in doing our due diligence with regard to research, and what we've done is we've gone to a few of the neighboring districts that have already jumped in some of the other programs like HVIP. And I'm sure the Air District is well aware of HVIP. It's another program that's funded through the state and through the federal government, and it provides funding for electric buses. So some of the districts that we've gone to have, in some cases, have purchased their buses, but they didn't do their due diligence with regards to infrastructure, and the infrastructure was way late. And what ended up happening was they had a lot of buses that they couldn't use. Then on top of that, they were sharing with us some of this information with regard to the range on the buses, which was at the time being expressed by vendors at being 100 to 120 miles.
Sorry, Ralph, we're losing you again on the audio. So we
I
heard something about-
apologize.
Okay,
Sorry about that.
That's
Is
better.
that better?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna stay right here. I'm not gonna move. So
Okay.
if you guys see my face go a little bit further back, tell me to come back in.
Thank you. And I'm gonna just ask you to speak a little slowly because we do have interpreters for Spanish so that they can
Okay.
keep up. Thank you.
Understood. If I need to interpret anything in Spanish, let me know, because I can do both.
You can speak in Spanish as well if you prefer. We have English interpretation.
Perfect. Don't call. I'm glad you called me out on that one. In doing our research, part of the other problem that we found out, or the other challenge that we found, was that the vendors had expressed a 100-mile to 120-mile range for buses. Now, normally with an empty bus, that would be accurate. However, during summer months, during winter months, when heating and cooling are running and buses are full to capacity, most of the districts were claiming that they were getting between 60 and 65-mile range. For us, that would be a bit of a challenge with some of the uses for these buses. So right now, at this particular time, what we're doing is we're partnering with some of the other members in our department, like Ms. Mary Gonzalez. We're partnering with some of our drivers and our drivers advisory committee, our dispatchers, to find out where exactly some of these buses, based on the technology and the limitations and the challenges, where could we put these buses? How could we put them to work to better serve our students? So just in response to some of the questions being asked as to where Fresno Unified stands with their electric buses, we're all on board. We want to have this technology, this equipment. However, we do want to make sure that our services that we provide our students, first and foremost, are safe, effective, and efficient. Because if we have buses that are out there with this new technology and they're not going to serve us in the full capacity based on safety first for our kids, it's a bit of a foregone conclusion, and we're kind of putting the technology in front of the safety, so to speak. So we're trying to manage and mitigate that as carefully as we can.
Thank you, Ralph.
You're welcome.
If I can maybe just so we at the district can know kind of what's next steps. Do you have an understanding of timeline, Ralph, of kind of this work that you're doing with having Mary and others kind of coordinate with you?
We're looking at hopefully sometime by the start of the school year to be able to have some type of a direct answer as to what we're going to need and how, which direction we want to go.
Sorry, we can't hear you again.
I'm so sorry. Trying to get a little closer. Sorry about that. I apologize. We're looking at the start of the school year sometime around August or September to be able to have a clear definitive answer as to which direction we're going to go. But I can say first and foremost is where we're going to need the most amount of support is with infrastructure, because the districts that we have worked with have all purchased the buses first. And just recently, one of our neighboring districts here, a smaller district, which has 12 routes in their system and purchased 9 buses, has buses down with no infrastructure. They're just now getting their infrastructure put in. So they're a little bit behind. And one of the things that we learned from our neighboring districts was the biggest challenge, the biggest need would be infrastructure first. So I'm working closely with Mr. Alex, closely with Miss Mary to make sure that we have the infrastructure and the funding necessary and needed in order to make sure that once that infrastructure is put in, we can go ahead and reach out to our vendors and say, hey, we're ready to start getting some buses.
And then can I ask, when you say neighboring districts, it sounds like the one that you just mentioned, I'm guessing is Fowler.
Very good, very good. Yes.
There's this, I know some things, but have you spoken, just kind of curious, we're Modesto Unified, obviously not a directly neighboring, but nearby school district, has also done a really large project or working on a really large project. Have you been in contact with them?
Yeah, so I have the privilege and the blessing of having my protege, which I trained since she was a school bus driver at Visalia Unified. She's now the senior operations school director for Modesto City Schools. So they have a 40 route system, and they just purchased 35 electric buses, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they have 5 more on the order list. So they're going to go full electric. But again, based on conversations that we've had with other districts, some of the challenges have been is that the technology is so new that when they run into challenges with regards to repairs and or breakdowns, Modesto's going to have some challenges with regard to backup buses, because I believe theirs were 1 for 1. So they were actually having to trade in their diesels for all electric. So again, those are just some of the realistic challenges. And again, I want to make sure that I'm not sending the wrong message. We know the direction that the school bus industry is going. We understand that it's going to go electric. It's going to go, zero burning fossil fuels. We understand that. But at this point right now, we have to make sure that we're careful in managing and mitigating the challenges, because the technology is still fairly new.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Ralph or comments?
I guess, oh, sorry, go ahead, Mary.
It's really more for clarification, because looking at the community plan, there was a tremendous effort. So I commend the community steering committee, the community input, and of course the Air District in helping to guide this. And in the plan, I mean, it was some brilliance there in that you identified zero emission and near zero emission. So I just want to confirm, are we excluding near zero emission just because it's identified in the plan? And the reason why I'm addressing it is because it would eliminate all concerns and allow the district to expedite any type of work going forward. Because, when you're talking about CNG, you're talking about a range of 300 miles versus the electric bus that may in practice have 80-mile range, right? And so what are the emissions we're talking about? 0.002. So it's one of the things that we want confirmation is near zero emission technology excluded from this opportunity, because it allows us to really address all the concerns in the community, expedite, move forward, and still, ensure the safety of students, reliability, because transportation is no longer to and from school. With our goal 2 activities, with our career technical education. And we have, over the last 8 to 10 years, expanded student engagement in multiple areas of our city. And those opportunities are very important now as we are in the pandemic, right? Because through the pandemic, we have 2 big factors: learning loss and student disengagement. So those are some of the biggest challenges that we're kind of grappling with. And so that's why these measures, as we move forward, I think with this time frame, under the conditions of the emergency conditions, you know, we have these impacts on students that we're trying to mitigate further damage. So accessibility to all these activities that transportation engages is so huge for the students, the schools, and every grade level, to be frank with you. So I just want to confirm that near zero is definitely not on the table.
It is a zero emission school bus, yeah. And our program that we operate even on at the district outside of the surface, also zero emission. And so I hear you there, and that's the approach we've taken with other types of modalities like heavy duty trucks, just because the technology is a little bit quite not there because of the way longer ranges. But for school buses, it is a zero emission commitment and program. And so with that, and I appreciate that was a great question, and certainly something, you know, to keep in mind, right? And kind of to your point, just to put into perspective the timing and the time it will take, I think, for what you're describing, and kind of going off of that and understanding the questions we had for folks in our air filtration discussion. I think the question we all have is, and Ralph, I super appreciate the timeline you gave us, and I just want to put something so that our facilitator can keep it open and transparent for us, is checking in with your team. You said, you know, August, September, is checking in with your team sometime late in just September, putting something officially on the calendar to check in with you all and get next steps that we can communicate. Does that seem like a reasonable next step?
So Ms. Jessica, I think that'd be a great next step, but I think somewhere before the next step, I wouldn't mind sitting down with Miss Mary and Mr. Alex and myself, sitting down with maybe you and your team and having a preliminary discussion just to get some of the challenges out there, because I know that this is something that everybody's really excited about. I as well am very excited about this. I have 2 children personally that, actually 3 children that have, you know, breathing difficulties because of the Valley Air, and I'm so grateful that we're shooting for trying to clean up our Valley Air. And we've come such a long way and made huge strides in doing so. And now it's even better for myself personally, because I've been in the school bus industry for now 33 years, and now that we see them going this way, it's even more of a compliment. So we definitely want to go in this direction. We definitely want to push that, but there's some challenges that we're facing from the industry aspect of it that I'd like to discuss further and to see how we're going to deal with those challenges.
And then maybe what we can offer just really quickly is that same short time window of like the next couple of weeks, getting with you all and getting all of that figured out. Is that?
I was hoping the next couple of days, actually.
Let's do it. I'm good with it.
We can meet as soon as we want. I'd be more than happy to meet this week anytime. But you know, again, these are just frank discussions where we are discussing facts and how to deal with some of these challenges, because we can all sit here all day long and say, oh no, we can't, oh no, we can't. I don't want to talk about no, we can't. I want to talk about how we can. How can we? How can we get this done? But again, realistically speaking, how are we going to deal with some of the challenges that we're facing right now? Because the technology is brand new in this industry. It's brand new. I know that there's, you know, we had Kings Canyon Unified that Dr. John Quinto here at Fresno Unified spearheaded. He spearheaded that program. However, they faced an insurmountable amount of challenges with some of theirs. So now, because we're just a few years past that and dealing with some of those challenges, I want to partner with our air district to help us figure out how we're going to deal with some of those challenges and manage and mitigate them with the understanding that safety and effectiveness and efficiency, the foundation of school pupil transportation here for Fresno Unified, have to be placed at the forefront.
This is Elizabeth. If I may interject, I do have to jump off. But I'm wondering, I know we've over the years have had multiple conversations about school buses and some of the challenges, et cetera. But another area potentially of opportunity, and please jump in, staff, if this has changed, but other types of fleet vehicles, and wondering if, you know, some of the funds could be used for, you know, other types of commercial vehicles that the district has. Instead, you know, finding that kind of use of the money that would still bring emissions out of the air, and you know, is maybe an area more ripe for opportunity.
And I mean, do you mind if I quickly answer her question before?
Go ahead.
We don't even have to use, we wouldn't use the school bus funds for that. We have funds for public fleet vehicles, which from my understanding can include public school district fleet vehicles. So that's absolutely available.
Right, and I guess I'm just saying it because I know that that's maybe a little bit more competitive than the school buses are obviously, you know, one category, and then the other one would be more open to others. But maybe if the target is to benefit school districts, maybe a separate set aside or something, so that we could more readily transition vehicles and accomplish emissions reductions. You know, even if school buses are not as feasible for us right now.
Just do you have as a response to that? And
I will follow up. It sounds like probably with Ralph and maybe you as well, because we actually have to your point, yes, it's open to a lot, but it's also way more funding available to that. So, but I hear you, and I think that makes a lot of sense to us.
Okay, yeah, I'd like Brandolyn to be included in those discussions. You know, I have a full-time job, but she can step in and at least, you know, brief me on what I need to know.
thank you, Elizabeth and Jess. Okay, Naomi, we'll go to you, and then Ryan, then Ralph.
Thank you. I understand the challenges and definitely agree that, you know, making sure that the infrastructure like charging station and other things are there in the first place. I also want to know, you know, just point out that I would love to have all the, well, not me, but the program, all the money of the world to say, we're going to replace your entire fleet. But, you know, when you were talking about, well, the distance that the buses can go, it is going to be easy. We just have money for 9 buses. So it's not going to be a whole thing. So if you can identify 9 buses that you can replace that will have a short, you know, like they don't have to go from Edison all the way to the northern part of the city, something that is a closer loop, there you already, so, you know, resolve part of the problem. And, you know, for that matter, Malaga Elementary, which is part of Fowler, they have been operating this electric bus for almost 2 years now. So, you know, I think in terms of like identifying the potential problems or gaps or whatever, they could be a very important neighbor to talk to, because, you know, they don't, I mean, they have been able to use it successfully. I don't see why, you know, Fresno Unified cannot operate 9 electric buses.
Thank you, Naomi. Those are really great points. Ryan?
Thanks, and I agree with what Naomi said. And the only other thing I'd like to bring up too is just some of the delivery times for the electric school buses right now. I know they're running between 10 months to a year. And so kind of going back to the presentation that Jess and Janine gave, I mean, we are working on some timelines. And so understand that there is going to be a delay between, when you put in an order and when that's received. The longer you wait, I think the queue of people that are reserving these buses is going to continue to grow. And so those wait times are only going to increase. And so it's going to make it more challenging for us. So just another thing for us to discuss in a meeting that we'll look to put together really soon, Ralph. Really appreciate all the great insight and discussion and the thought that you guys are putting into that.
Thank you, Ryan. Go ahead, Ralph.
Oh, so I just wanted to go back to Miss Jessica. She made a very good point about some of the funding. Through some of my other districts that I've worked at, I've managed to reach out through the PUC grant, which was able to allow districts up to $100,000 for clean air vehicles. And man, I took that grant to the cleaners every single year that I possibly could, and I try to get our district vehicles upgraded in every way, shape, and form to try to utilize those benefits. I think where we're at right now, folks, is we're just at a point where we need to sit down and have some real serious discussions, some real factual discussions, and just make sure that we're putting everything out on the table, being as transparent as we can, but at the same time being realistic and putting our priorities in order. So in response to Ms. Nayamin, very good point, absolutely right. Yes, Fowler has been running this program for about 2 years. And in speaking with Mr. Javier Moreno, who was very insightful and very helpful with a lot of the experiences that they had, those were some of the concerns. Just what I shared were some of the concerns that they had. And yeah, for 9 buses, I'm sure we'd be able to find some place to put 9 buses where we'd be able to manage and mitigate them. But at the same time, going back to Miss Mary's point, are we still talking? I know this is a zero emissions program. I understand that it would take having to get rid of 9 of our CNG buses, possibly, and CNG buses are 0 to no emissions, I believe. So again, this is just something that we would like to discuss further as we move forward.
Ralph, you just made a good point. We just want to make sure everyone is aware that over the past 2 decades, Fresno Unified and more has been updating and replacing old diesel buses. So the truck and bus regulation gave us a timeline up until 2018. So in 2017, the district purchased 25, I believe, CNG buses, replacing old diesel buses to meet that deadline. We also supplemented with grants that were available that we could access over these past 10 years and more, right? Basically, we only have a few diesel buses even remaining. And even those few are encumbered with other grants. So we'd be giving up those other grants to use this program, but there's only a few remaining. We don't have many old diesel buses. The majority are CNG.
And Colette, can you help? And I know, Ralph, I see you raised your hand again. Colette is on our team, and I just want to clarify that this funding, at least the way that it's approved by CARB and the way that we work it, is just to replace diesel. Is that true, or can it replace a CNG bus?
This specific one, the way that I see it written up here would be to replace diesel buses, not CNG. So it would be their old diesel buses. As far as being encumbered with other grants, if those old diesel buses that you have, since you don't have many of them, if any of them are tied up with any of the grants from the Air District, I know that there may be things that we can do. Like if the Air District had replaced an old diesel bus with a newer diesel bus several years ago, but you're still under contract, there are ways that, there might be ways that we can work with you on that. We have worked with some other schools on that one. And it does have to do with the fact that it's going from diesel to electric and some flexibility that CARB.
The SERP for South Central Fresno replaces any like fuel, like my understanding of it.
Okay.
It's not diesel only, it's replacing combustion fired school buses with electric.
Right. So that was, that's kind of why I prompted that question, because that's my understanding too, Ryan. And I wonder too, if that means that we do a little work on our end to update our application guidelines and our program to accommodate, sounding like this is one of those barriers we're identifying, right? In addition to the infrastructure and the range, is what buses can you even replace? And maybe because the SERP allows for it, but the program right now is a little more restrictive, we can maybe work to adjust that. And that could be one of our actions in the next couple of days when we meet with Ralph's team later.
Thanks all. Ralph?
I just wanted to reemphasize how excited I am to be working with the Air District and the community here in Fresno. This is a huge opportunity for me. I have a lot of background in this district. My dad was the former director of transportation here for Fresno Unified, and he did a lot of work with regards to obtaining 35 CNG buses at the time to help clean the air here for San Joaquin Valley Air. I'm grateful and blessed with the opportunity that I'll be able to one-up that by getting electric buses here for Fresno Unified. So I'm super, super excited for this opportunity. However, again, just want to make sure that we've got all of our ducks in a row, because we want to make sure that we're not compromising or putting in any type of way the safety, compromising the safety of our students. We want to make sure that our students are safe. The services that we're providing our students is effective, and then more importantly is ultimately that we're efficient with the services that we provide. As Miss Mary mentioned earlier, it's not just about home to school anymore. You know, these kids, CTE has been running all year around this year. It's the first year that Fresno Unified has run all year CTE. We're so excited because it's giving our students and here at Fresno Unified an opportunity to embark on different areas and branches of education and training. And transportation is the start and end of that every single day. So what a better way to go into these programs with clean burning or clean electric buses, right? Zero emission buses. So Miss Jessica, please, let's get this meeting going. Let's sit down. Let's talk about all the do's and all the cans and all the wins, right? That's all we want to do is win.
Hey, real quick, because I believe being accurate is very important. I was wrong, and Colette's right. It only applies to diesel, the way it's written in the CERB.
But I think either way though, Ryan and team, I wonder if we just collectively think a little bit about that. Because it sounds like that is a barrier, and whether it's in the CERB or not, if it's a complete barrier to transitioning to zero, maybe it's an effort that we can work with we'll work internally, we'll work with CARB, all the decision makers, right?
Well,
Yeah,
I think something that we
if
can
that's
also
the
talk with the steering committee.
That's the obstacle. You know, you have good, well, some representation of us here, and I don't think we have any reservation on making that adjustment. You know, we don't want that to be a barrier, because the only buses that are available and would meet that, you know, range of distance and what have you are not diesel. I wouldn't like that to be the obstacle.
Go ahead, Rob. You're muted.
And by the way, I definitely concur with Naomi. You know, I want to see us getting to yes. I don't want to hear on either side no. I have to get back to you and it'd be 3 weeks. I'm like a 24-hour woman. Come on, give me the answer. Let's get going. You know, we got the money. We need to spend it. I don't want to spend it on something else, guys.
Ms. Lisa, I concur, and I love that approach. That's a win-win attitude. I love it. So Fresno Unified wants to get on board with this. I want to talk to our partners. One thing I would like to say though, it's really good that some of our partners to the north are embarking on such an aggressive obstacle. Like they're really going after this, and kudos to them. God bless them. You know, hopefully everything goes good for them. But from our perspective, we want to take a more calculated, more tactful approach with regards to how we structure this. And the first step in that is to sit down with our partners and find out which way we're going to go. But yes, absolutely, Ms. Lisa, totally agree. I don't want to meet in 3 weeks. I want to meet in 3 days. I want to meet in 3 hours. So whatever we can do, let's go ahead and let's get together and let's have a discussion. All good things start with a conversation.
And I will tell you, I'm free on weekends too. So hey, I'm there.
Thank you, Lisa. I think we all really appreciate the enthusiasm. It seems like everyone's sort of in agreement with trying to reach the same solution. And hopefully we can see that through with some really actionable items. Since we do have multiple perspectives here from different agencies and districts, just wondering, you know, in terms of getting really specific, what conditions are needed, you know, for the Unified School District to be ready to have these conversations, and what other considerations should we have in approaching this, since time is of the essence, and also considering the school timeline as well. Yes, Ralph.
I got Mr. Alex right here. His computer went down. So
yeah.
Oh, that we were wondering. I can't hear him though.
Yeah, we can.
All right. So here, now I get the school bus. Those are cool, right?
We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Wow. So now I appreciate what Ralph was going through. So anyway,
we're losing you again.
Gotta really lean in.
Yeah.
I talked to Paul, because Paul was jumped in also. We're going to be doing is getting back together. We'll be getting with the mayor. We're going to use the flyer and information.
I'm sorry. You keep cutting out again. I don't know if there's like a.
We'll use. So what we're going to do is Paul popped in earlier.
Right.
We're going to be getting together internally as a team, again, with Mary. We're going to use the information you had as your flyer, and then we'll probably be reaching out to you by phone to see what we can do next. In addition to that, we also want to share what's happened, what's been done so far. And then we want to look at, as we look at Southwest Fresno, where specifically this is anchored to, we want to look at the opportunities, whether it be continued improvements, or would it be a purchase item for like air scrubbers, things like that could go into classrooms? Because we definitely want to achieve the timelines and take advantage of any of the funds that are available. So that's the approach. Paul and I spoke about that while we're all looking at Ralph's computer from the back. So thank you for your patience.
Thank you. Jessica Olson, I was wondering if it makes sense for, in order for you all to kind of move to action, because I'm hearing the sense of urgency from Ralph, does it make sense for us to kind of like hear the concerns and, you know, what the conditions are needed for other partners that are here right now to share, and then maybe allow space for the Air District and Ralph to really get the nitty-gritty details right now today, and then set up your next meeting for the two of you to connect and make this work happen? Or is that moving a little too fast?
It's not too fast for us, but from what I heard earlier, but I'm happy to facilitate, you know, the next 15 minutes, hear any and all concerns right now. Earlier, I thought there was maybe there would needed to be like a little moment together to gather their information. So whatever you all are ready for, we have the time right now. We're here to talk. So I see Ralph has his hand and he's eager.
Excuse me. So Miss Jessica, Miss Amy, I appreciate that. Thank you for acknowledging that. What I want to do is I would like to say we have Thursday and Friday. If you guys are open either tomorrow or Friday, I can get together with my team real quick, find out what our schedules look like. I just need to know what everyone's schedule looks like, make sure that I'm not jumping on Mr. Alex's calendar or Miss Mary's calendar. I want to make sure I'm considerate towards their time and their space. But as far as my calendar goes for today and tomorrow, I would set aside anything we have to try to talk about some of these challenges. I will say right now, my main concern right now, just based on some of our neighbors and what they've been going through, is infrastructure. Once we establish infrastructure, we're ready to go. Let's start ordering some buses. But as far as that goes, again, getting back to some of the concerns that were brought up earlier, there's a timeline for infrastructure as well, and it's about 6 to 18 months for infrastructure. So again, I want to have these discussions so that way everybody understands that Fresno Unified is on board with moving forward, as long as we're being tactful and strategic in our approach. So again, today or tomorrow, send me an email, shoot me a text. You want me to post my number? I'll do whatever you need me to do. That way you guys can give me a call and let me know.
We will make ourselves available for any time. We have lots of folks here. Certainly, I'm the one to help coordinate, but we have people who's on Colette's team and some of her team members that are definitely more the people to talk with, and we'll get them all ready.
Miss Jessica, would it be safe to say that I could turn to you and just say, if you want to set something up for either today or tomorrow, just let me know what time. I'll be there.
Sure.
My team will be there.
Done. Awesome. Thank you. We will do
All right,
that.
thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Also, on a side note, Ralph, I would also include infrastructure until, you know, you get a word from the state that they can't add an extension due to the sourcing problems that we're having nationally, because when doing grants with the state, and there's whole sorts of things about encumbrance of money. So there is some leeway. They just need to figure it out. So for right now, I would include it. Whether it's the meat of the project or if it's gravy on the project, just include it.
Understood. Thank you, Ms. Lisa.
Thank you, Lisa. And thank you, Ralph. Brandolyn?
Yeah, I just wanted to iterate that I am available in the next couple of days and would love to be a part just for communications purposes. I'm putting my email address in the chat right now, and I did see Ryan's comment. I will communicate that to Board President Johnson.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, so I do see we have 15 minutes left, and I think it is great to just hear folks' concerns and challenges, things we want to consider to really maximize the meeting that you all do finally have, so folks can come prepared to really start talking about solutions. But yeah, welcome any other challenges y'all foresee, any considerations. what conditions anyone needs really to move things along. I think we can use the rest of the time for that, but.
I was going to say, Jem, I do have, and maybe there is a little bit of time at the end that we'd like to reserve to talk about a couple other opportunities. So if there aren't questions right now, I'll save space for final questions, but then I'd like to talk a little bit about some other things, if that's okay with everyone.
Yeah, of course. Any other thought? Thanks, Jess, for that reminder. Any other thoughts or questions regarding the school air filtration and the electric school buses? It sounds like we have a lot of specific action items and meetings set up, and we'll go over that at the end of the meeting. All right, back to you, Jess.
Thank you. I'm going to, it's definitely a much more streamlined set of slides because really the intention when we set this up with all of you is to talk about those two projects. The next slide is just a quick summary, but I will verbalize and certainly allow CSC members to also express kind of what these two measures are. But essentially, these are technically three different measures, but one is kind of similar to the other. But there are AB 617 programs in the SERP that also have funding available. It's not in here, but Ryan dropped it in the chat. Public fleet vehicles is one, and certainly it sounds like we're going to connect with others kind of about future opportunities there. Another one that is also open already is commercial lawn and garden equipment. So folks that do the lawn and garden work at the Fresno Unified, typically with larger districts, they own that equipment. And so you are eligible through the SERP to get funding for up to $20,000 per unit to replace that with clean or electric equipment. And so that's definitely something we wanted to let you all know about. And then finally, we have really two measures, but and in particular for schools, I think one or the other is certainly warranted, that are related to planting trees. Each of them has $1 million allocated, and so it's potentially can go to one or multiple different folks, but essentially they are for urban greening, which is planting trees in a variety of spaces to reduce urban heat island effect and a variety of other air quality issues. And the other is vegetative barriers, which is a much more structured approach to planting trees to block pollution. We have a request for proposals for both of them that is open right now. And we had community members, many of them on this call in particular, that identified that our original request for proposals would have closed prior to the school district or schools even really opening. And so individual principals or even the school districts themselves might not be available to understand or even see that it was open. And so we will follow up this meeting with some of the action items, which will also include the link that's in this, as well as a follow-up mailer we will mail out to the schools regarding the open RFP or request for proposals to get funding to plant trees. So I just wanted to let you all know, I'm happy to, again, stop sharing my screen, drop in the chat and see if there's any questions. And I do already see one from Brandolyn.
Yes, I just wanted to communicate that I sent that information to Board President Jonathan, and she said it's a bit hard to know whether the vehicles will stay within that certain area. So if there's trips outside of the Central Valley, is there any kind of leeway around that?
You're talking for the public fleet vehicles.
For the public fleet vehicles.
Great question. I think we typically do more than, majority of the time within a specific area. That's how you can imagine when we fund trucks, for example, they don't just stay within the boundary, but we want them to operate mostly within the boundary. For public fleet vehicles, we'll double check with our team and get back to you. And that's one of our action items as well, Brandolyn. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Are there any questions or comments with the other programs that Jess just covered? And she'll be following up.
I have a question, and I know you guys have maybe a very specific role within the school district, but if you can point us to the right person within the district that could be, a good contact for the urban greening and vegetative barriers. We have been in contact with several elementary school principals like Bancroft, Winchell, Lowell that are in the area and they are completely on board. But we also are, aware that this requires some other involvement from someone within the school district. So if you can point us to the right person so that we can make the connections as soon as possible, and make sure that the schools that are interested, you know, we can assist them.
So I got my computer back up and running. So thank you, Ralph. What we do have is we have a gentleman by the name of Joan Jones, which oversees our grounds and operations department. He and I work together in support of the district as relates to grounds, operational service, and so forth. And then we also have a maintenance department that has small capital projects. So I think what we would like to do is get together with the San Joaquin Valley, get together with what's out there, and the opportunities, kind of what you just had on your slide. And then we could look at strategic opportunities that we can help support planting trees and planting, developing green berries and so forth. And then collaborating also with schools. I think probably the easiest thing also to do is take all these different wonderful items that we have identified and then backward map, you know, when do we have to expend or spend the funds by, to make sure that what we start planning or talking about is actually achievable. And then, so I think that's probably the most important. So I really am looking forward to Jessica and Jim as an opportunity to get our group back together again. So I remember you guys came with Ryan. I was kind of new to my position. So now what we want to do is do that again and say, okay, these are different opportunities. This is what we can do, have a very transparent, open conversation. And then from there is start identifying next steps. Even with the air opportunities, I'm already thinking but it's low hanging fruit that we can jump on. So we can do a follow-up meeting with that, with whoever you feel is appropriate from your department to kind of talk about what that looks like, what that procurement process looks like, and obviously in collaboration with Mary. So, and what Mary said before, I apologize. How do you say your first name? Naaman?
Oh, Naimeen.
Close enough,
Nayamin. That's good. Thank you, Nayamin. So that's a beautiful name. So is all of our initial contacts and stuff will be going through Mary as it relates to grants and so forth. So that way there's one conduit. You're not talking to multiple different people. And then that way, as we execute those resources, we can also make sure that we're getting the appropriate people at the table. So there's no time wasted in our efforts. With the stuff that's been displayed today, we'll get copies of that. Hopefully we'll pull the information, or if there's just a data dump we can do, that would be great as well. And we'll take that, get that to the team, and get back to you quickly. And then again, I appreciate everybody's time and patience. There's a new team that we have pretty much running a lot of different parts of operational services. And so your patience with that, but also leaning in and pushing is greatly appreciated. So just consider if there's been other older agreements that have been made that we may or may not be aware of, please bring them forward. There's a desire to make our air better. And so we, as a team, we want to collectively be there with you.
I'll confirm all of what you just asked, Alex, of the district. We're certainly open and we'll do all of that, bring the right folks. And again, with this next step in the next couple of days and next couple of weeks, kind of the couple of check-ins we have, we are committed 100%.
Excellent.
Wonderful. Are there any other questions or comments? We covered a lot today. Thank you all for such good engagement. So we're just really quickly, we have action items. Just want to confirm that with a group. And then if there's any corrections to be made, this would be a great time to do so. So the first one being the Air District and the school district will coordinate another time to meet within the next few days to discuss challenges, next steps, and commitments, as well as share those final meetings and next steps with the CSC. Any corrections or clarification for that action item?
No.
You forgot to let me know when the date is, because I want to know, because I want to make sure it happens.
It's on there.
Okay.
The next one will be CARB will check with incentives team about whether the timeline for distributing grant funds are flexible to accommodate supply chain issues. Any questions or corrections there?
So this is Jennifer from CARB. I did go ahead and drop the links, and unfortunately those deadlines are set by the legislator's office and we have no authority to extend those.
Thank
Now,
you.
is that the, excuse me, but is that the final encumbrances, deadline gates, or is it actually just the granting?
So those are the liquidation dates. If you look at Appendix A, and I dropped the link in the chat, it'll tell you exactly when that deadline is.
Hello?
Hello?
Did you hear that, Lisa?
Hello?
Can you hear us, Lisa?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Can you hear us? Hello? Lisa, can you hear it? We may have lost
Hi,
her.
can you guys hear me?
Yes.
We can hear you, but I
'Cause
don't
I can't hear anybody.
Okay, we'll, if anyone is in touch with Lisa, or we'll follow up with you
I'm
after.
sorry, but I can see your lips moving. Can't hear a thing.
Well, we do only have a couple of minutes, Lisa, so we'll follow up with you.
I'll drop in the chat something.
Okay, thanks, Jess. And then just really quickly.
Still can't hear you.
Yes, sorry, I'm just gonna keep going because I know we have to let you all go in 2 minutes. The last piece, the Air District and the school district will meet to discuss options for using public fleet vehicles, as well as the other potential opportunities for urban greening and vegetative barriers. Any questions or corrections for that action item? Lastly, are there any action items we've missed here that we need to add? Okay, I don't see anything else in the chat or any hands up. Sounds like we have a lot of marching orders. Thank you everyone for such an engaging conversation. Feeling a bit optimistic about next steps and really hoping to see some solutions and actionable items soon. All right, with that said, have a good rest of your evening. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Take care, everyone. See some of you very soon.
Thank you.
Hey, Jessica, I got a question for you. When's the follow-up to this, by the way, just out of curiosity?
I think after all of the 2 meetings that it sounds like we're going to get to and get the feedback to you all as a CSE when those meetings are, then we'll schedule a follow-up.
Okay. So I will anticipate August 15th.
We'll schedule a follow-up and let you all know. So thank you.
You know, I'm pushing it because I want the schools to have the money.
We all do. And I appreciate all of you helping us. So thank you.
All right. Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone. Have a
Have
good
a good
evening.